Well guys, we did it. We survived to 2025. Well, I'm writing this in 2024, so maybe not, but assuming we made it this far, we've got a pretty big year ahead of us. Maybe not so much for the Minecraft guys in the channel, but this is a huge year for the Nintendo side because we are finally getting a brand new console some point before the year's end. And it's almost 100% just going to be a Nintendo Switch 2, but I think that's what everyone wants anyway. In fact, there have been a ton of leaks going around about this console and what it looks like. I'm not going to be including any images of those in this video because I do not want Nintendo to murder me. Since I'm fairly certain the next console is just going to be a more powerful Switch, the console itself is not really the interesting thing for me. No, it's of course the games we're going to be getting on this thing. The launch year of the Switch was probably the best year of Nintendo's recent history release-wise, giving us Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Splatoon 2, and of course, Super Mario Odyssey. Hey, what about ARMS? Even if I doubt we'll reach that high with this console's launch year, I'm definitely expecting some pretty hard-hitting games for 2025. But the funny thing is, maybe I'm just out of the loop, but I haven't heard any reliable leaks relating to what games this is getting. As far as I know, we pretty much only have Pokemon Z-A. While the Pokemon franchise is great and all, it's not my favorite franchise. No, that would of course be the Mario series. I think pretty much everyone agrees that there will be some sort of Mario game during the launch year. I think it's a pretty safe bet. So I want to start off this new year talking about specifically what Mario games I think could happen and what I would want from them. I know I've already done a Switch 2 predictions video before, but I want to do one last little prediction because a lot of people are seeming fairly confident that Switch 2 and presumably some of its games is being announced very early in January. Could be completely off on that and everyone can make fun of me if I do turn out to be wrong, but regardless, that's the reason I want to talk about Mario today. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right in. First, I want to start with a type of Mario game that could happen, but I just don't think is super likely. That would of course be a brand new 2D Mario game. Now there are several reasons I don't see this happening at launch. Primarily, we literally just got Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Before Wonder, the gap between a new 2D Mario game was 11 years. Most of you weren't even alive. Now just because there was an 11-year gap between 2D Mario games last time doesn't mean there can't be a shorter gap. I mean, between New Super Mario Bros. 2 and New Super Mario Bros. U, there was only a 4-month gap? What? But that was only because one was for a handheld and the other was for a home console. Now that the Switch has taken over both fields, I think the gaps between the series are going to get a bit bigger. On top of that, Mario Wonder is so well liked because of how unique it is, and that meant taking a bit of extra development time. People were constantly hating the New Super Mario Bros. Series for feeling too samey to one another, and while I still really like the games, I mean I basically made a 7-hour video praising them, I think Nintendo has learned to give these games a bit of breathing room. In addition to that, going from Mario Wonder releasing in 2023 to another 2D Mario game right away won't really feel like the most exciting launch title. Like, don't get me wrong, I love 2D Mario. I mean, do I need to show the video again? But I think most people generally like it a lot less than the other types of Mario games that are big hitters. While all Mario games appeal to a general and casual audience, I'd say 2D definitely leans more towards casuals who are probably not the ones buying a Switch 2 day one. So I personally think we will not be seeing a 2D Mario game this year. I want to continue that with a game that sort of fits within the 2D Mario genre, but still worth a mention on its own, being Super Mario Maker 3. I have hope in my heart that Mario Maker has become a staple franchise at this point as the first two were very popular. I mean, Mario Maker 2 is basically what helped me build my channel in the first place. I mean, imagine a world where I never ranked the semi-solids. So that's all to say that I think they will eventually release a Mario Maker 3 for Switch 2, but will they do it during the first year? At first I was gonna say definitely not, but I guess there is a glimmer of hope for it. First off, the main thing that's working against it is just the fact that of the Mario big hitters, it does sell the least. It still does extremely well, of course, but when its competition is the mainline series and Mario Kart, it is a lot smaller in comparison. Considering we're talking about a launch title here, it's probably best to lead with a bigger seller and one that isn't so similar to a game that can already be played on the Switch. I mean, they did release Breath of the Wild on both Switch and Wii U, but who had a Wii U? So I highly doubt we would get Mario Maker 3 as a launch title or even within the first year. If we do, I think it would have to be alongside another Mario game, and to me that sounds pretty unlikely. Speaking of the Wii U though, I do want to talk about one thing for the Switch 2 that gives Mario Maker 3 a little bit of hope. Now this is going to be a little bit leak related, so if you don't want to hear that, go to the timestamp on screen. You have 3 seconds. Okay, time's up. Now, I'm not sure how credible this all is, but it sounds like the Switch 2 might have some sort of button that connects the Switch to the TV rather than a whole dock. That would mean that you could play on the TV while still holding the Switch itself like a Wii U gamepad. If that's true, Mario Maker 3 could be the perfect game to show that off. After all, one of the biggest criticisms for Mario Maker 2 was that it was a lot harder to make levels without a gamepad. Personally, I had no trouble just using the controller, but if the Switch 2 leak is true, it would fix a big problem a lot of other people had. The only other game I could think of that would show off this functionality well is a Wind Waker HD port, as it used the gamepad for its inventory. Personally, since I highly doubt we'll be getting a brand new Zelda game, I think a Wind Waker HD port is much more likely for year one than Mario Maker 3. Obviously, Wind Waker HD wouldn't be the console's main launch title since it's just a port, but I could absolutely still see it coming year one or even day one if it's with something else. So even if Mario Maker 3 could be used to show off that new Connect button super well, I think Nintendo would go with different games first. Since I doubt Mario Maker 3 would be the only Mario game year one even if it does come, I'm just gonna say that it's not gonna happen. But now we get into the big two, the ones I think both have a very good chance chance of being announced right alongside the Switch 2. I think pretty much everyone is in the same boat here, so let's just go ahead and talk about the first one, a new 3D Mario game. It has been an incredibly long wait since the last 3D entry. It's been over 7 years since Odyssey, and even if you count Bowser's Fury, that was almost 4 years ago now. 3D Mario games are also always system sellers, so I think it's quite the safe bet that we'll be seeing one this year. Since we can almost certainly count out a new 3D Zelda game due to Tears of the Kingdom coming out in 2023, and the fact that they take forever to make those games, 3D Mario is probably what Nintendo's relying on for their strong single-player game for year one. Maybe they could be relying on Pokemon Z-A for that, but I think Nintendo would rather go with one of their two main IPs. Now this could just be my bias talking because I love 3D Mario, but come on, I think the wait has been long enough. I'm even gonna go as far to say that this will be the Switch 2 launch title this time instead of just being in the first year. Having a good single-player game is very important for a system launch considering most people's friends will not even have the console for day one multiplayer. But that brings up the question about this 3D Mario game. Will it? Perhaps. Please just be Odyssey 2! I think I've made it pretty clear by the amount of videos I've made coping that they'll make a sequel that Odyssey 2 is my most wanted game of all time. But I think at this point I'm losing hope. It makes the most sense to do a direct sequel when it's on the same console. I mean, that's what Galaxy did. It's not impossible that we will still get an Odyssey 2, but I think Nintendo is going to want a more distinct game to really sell their new console. I think a Super Mario Odyssey 2 would be an absolute masterpiece, but Nintendo may want a new gimmick for this 3D Mario so it stands out. That does really sting because I love everything about Odyssey, especially the movement, so getting new areas to run around in would have been fantastic. All I can hope for is that whatever 3D Mario game they do decide to do, it has movement on par with Odyssey. At the very least, I am going to predict that this will be a non-linear style 3D Mario game in the vein of 64 and Odyssey. Linear ones like 3D World are absolutely fantastic, but I think most people prefer the more open world approach. The non-linear games just feel much grander in scale, which I think is important for a system launch. They could also go with the Galaxy approach where it's sort of between linear and non-linear, but I think you guys know how I feel about the Galaxy games at this point. So my prediction here is that we will not only get a 3D Mario game at launch, but it'll be a non-linear title as well. But at this point, the mainline Mario series isn't the #1 seller on its respective console. No, that crown goes to another type of Mario game, one that we've been waiting on a new entry for a long time. Mario Super Slugger. It's time we talk about Mario Kart 9, or Mario Kart 10, I don't know how they count tour. Or Mario Kart 11. The first Switch's launch year had both Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Super Mario Odyssey. Seeing as the Switch was, you know, just a little successful, I think it's safe to say that Nintendo might just do the same thing again. With how much Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold, I would be shocked if Nintendo didn't try to get out a new Mario Kart for the Switch 2's holiday. And no, just to be clear, I'm predicting this won't be Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Deluxe. I know this game seems immortal, but I think its time is up. I'll kill it with my own hands if I have to. Since this will be the Switch 2's big multiplayer game, I could see it releasing a little bit after day one. Personally, I'm predicting Mario Kart 9 is the holiday release. I think the Switch 2 will likely drop at some point during the summer, so that's only a few months after launch. Now for Mario Kart 9 specifically, I definitely want to do a more in-depth predictions video once it gets announced. But for now, I'm going to predict that this game will launch with 48 tracks. I unfortunately don't see it starting with the massive 96 that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has, but I could see them eventually getting there through DLC. At the very least, I will be satisfied if we only get 48 as long as they're high quality tracks. Now normally that's where I would end off this video, but I did think of 2 more games while editing that I wanted to talk about. First up is a new Mario Party because they sell surprisingly well. Like, of course it's gonna do good, it's got Mario on it, but 20 million copies? So it's safe to say that the Mario Party franchise is another pretty big hitter. With that being said though, I really don't see it being a launch title. Mario Party Jamboree came out just a few months ago, and I really don't see Nintendo relying on this series for a system launch. I mean, the original Switch has 3 of them, so I highly doubt that people would buy a Switch 2 purely for Mario Party. A franchise I do think people would buy a whole new console for is a new Smash Bros. Now this isn't really a Mario game, but whatever, shut up, I'm including it. Smash Ultimate is the Switch's 3rd best-selling game just behind Animal Crossing New Horizons and of course Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so it's pretty safe to say that the Switch 2 will eventually get its own Smash Bros. Every single one of you that says Ultimate is the last game in the franchise is stupid, but I highly doubt it will release year one. Smash Bros is able to carry an entire year's worth of discussion by itself, so I think it's more suited for a second year release since obviously the first year should focus on the console itself a bit. This is what happened with Ultimate with it coming in 2018, so I think a very similar thing will happen with the Switch 2. So my final prediction for Mario's Switch 2 release year will be a non-linear 3D game at launch, with Mario Kart 9 coming in the holiday season. But anyways, that's it for this video. Do you think Super Mario RPG 2 will be a launch title and hate me for not mentioning it? Let me know in the comments. I know this is a short video, but I honestly just wanted to get something out just in case Nintendo does announce the Switch 2 out of nowhere. I'm really looking forward to making a ton of videos on it this year, and I hope you all enjoy what I've got cooking up. But before we go, I've got to make sure to thank my members, being Caddy Shroom, Andres Valerio, Mikey Fuller, Maidzo2, Shrugface Uwu, Ryan, Miss Jades a lot, I'm Not Denny BG, Bort Loco, Gnarled, Yanni the Duck, SMA, B Major 2003, Arson the Raboot, Sir Musty, Kid Trunks 15, Belandor, Puggles Are Fun, Trader Mo, Diluted Colors, Cinder CC, Jade Avery, Pruncel Clone, Thicky Reiki, SJ100, Ingenio TM, CW McCain, Tibby, JubeTube Z, Tesseract, Nuclear, Mr. McMahon 5702, Sebi, Hippopotamus, Jameson Pageson, Wilbur, Golden Sandslash 15, Z Frost, Stuffy Ant, Just Dex, Conkanut, Keep, and Christian Flattery Sequel Edition. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.